Hi, I'm the Lag Dr. Clay Ballard, and this week's winner is DA points. We're going to talk about something that's going to give you power, efficiency, and make it really easy for you to play great golf, and that's called sequencing. Now, you hear a lot of people talk about sequencing, but they never really go over exactly what sequencing is. Well, today, once and for all, I'm going to go over what sequencing is, show you how it's very similar to how you would crack a whip so that you can start hitting the ball better than you ever have before, just like DA points, this week's PGA Tour winner. So for those of you that are watching this on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to this channel. We put out new videos at least twice a week. If you want to see a lot of great golf instruction for free, subscribe to the channel. You're going to be the first to know about all of our new videos. Also, like this video so we can keep making more and more of them, and be sure to stick around to the end for the free preview of the premium video that I'm going to attach, or click in the bottom right and you can watch that free video right now. So you've heard it time and time again, the golf swing is like a whip. You have to crack the whip, you need to release the whip at impact, but how does a whip work and how do we incorporate that into our golf swing? It's kind of an abstract idea. I don't really know anybody that's really actually cracked a whip, but we're going to go over exactly how it happens and how energy transfers in the golf swing. That's what sequencing is about when we're talking about it as it relates to golf swing. We're talking about a transfer of energy. So this is something I found online. It's called a whip cam. Somebody put their GoPro on a whip as they were practicing cracking their whip in the backyard, I guess. But you can see here, here's the edge of the whip and here's the handle of the whip with a camera attached to it. So let's look at how energy is transferred when you crack a whip. Now, for those of you who don't know, a whip goes very, very fast. It moves up to 400 plus miles an hour and actually breaks the barrier of sound. That's how fast it's moving. That's why it's a good example of efficiency and energy. So first, what we're going to do is you're going to be pulling the handle. In the golf swing, this would be like the hips. The hips start first. As they start to go, you can see that they're going to be moving fairly fast. This is moving pretty quickly. And then what happens? The hips slow down. So the hips are going to start to slow down. This whip, the butt end of the whip, is going to slow down. And then what goes next? Next is going to be the section that would be the shoulders. Energy's transferred to that section. It's released, so it slows down. And then energy's transferred on down the chain over and over again. So we did the hips. We did the shoulders. Now we're going to do the arms. That would be the next section of the whip. It's going to speed up and then slow down. And then the last section would be the club. So here's the end of the whip here. It's going to crack last. That would be representing the club. So you can see how energy is transferred down through the whip. So each segment speeds up and then slows down, and the energy goes down the chain. By the time it reaches the end of the chain, it's moving very, very quickly. That's what we want in the golf swing. That's why we talk about lag and release and sequencing and all this. It's just transferring energy so that the club head can move very quickly with very little effort. Okay, so here's DA points. He's this week's winner on the PGA Tour, and he has a very good sequence to his swing. He's transferring his energy very, very well. You'll find this in basically every single PGA Tour player. It just so happens that the player with the best sequencing is Tiger Woods. I don't think that's by coincidence. I think that's a very important part of the golf game. That's one thing that I see a lot of amateurs do poorly that all pros do very, very well, along with a few other key pieces that I talk about over and over again. So first, let's watch as he goes to the top of the backswing. Everything's good here. Got some pretty good moves. Looks like he's loaded up on his right side. Not RST perfect every little move, but the sequencing is very, very good. And that's what we're going to get to now. So first, when does the downswing start? Well, the downswing actually starts before the backswing ends with the hands, arms, and club. So you'll notice that at this point, the club is still moving back, and this is tough to tell with him. He has a very smooth sequence. But the club's moving back, and his hips are actually moving toward the target. So his hips are starting to rotate and move toward the target, and his club is still moving backwards. So the hips always start first. That's what starts the chain of events. You can kind of imagine the hips as a train. It's got a lot of power, it's got momentum, it gets things going, and it sets up the much faster arms, which is more like a slingshot. So a train doesn't accelerate really fast, and those of you that tell you, oh, you need to accelerate your hips as fast as you can, completely wrong. That's not what you want to do if you have the great sequencing. The hips actually need to decelerate. We're going to get to that later, but the body and the hips moves fairly slow and it gets momentum going. That's why it goes first, just like the butt end of the whip. If we tried to rip the butt end of the whip through as fast as we could, we'd never be able to get the end to crack. So it needs to be smooth, it needs to be fluid, and it needs to be the correct transfer of energy. So what's going to happen is the hips are going to go first. At this point here, the weight is shifting toward the target, and the hips are opening. And you'll notice that his shoulders really aren't doing a lot at this point. So they're fairly passive. They're going to be opening some. There'll be some transfer of energy there. But the hips are going first. So you can kind of imagine this as energy being built from the ground. It's going up through his body, through the hips at this point. And then after the hips get to about here, the hips are going to start to decelerate. So now the hips aren't moving incredibly fast at this point, and this would be when he's driving his left heel into the ground. So to help decelerate his hips, he's putting pressure into the ground. It's going to help slow these hips down. Now, one other thing I didn't mention is when he starts with his hips and he keeps the shoulders fairly passive, you can imagine all these muscles in the left side of his body are getting stretched out. So a stretched muscle can fire much faster than a relaxed muscle. That's one of the good things about sequencing, if you do it properly, is it's stretching out these muscles so that they can load and then be fired much more quickly later in the swing. So again, the first thing that starts it all off, the hips are moving first. They're starting the ball rolling. They're getting momentum just like a train, pretty slow but powerful, getting everything moving to the left, and then the energy is transferred up from the hips, from the ground, up into the shoulders. The shoulders go next. So now the shoulders are going to start to unwind. They're going to be moving fairly quickly in the swing relative to the rest of the swing. The shoulders are going, creating some power here. Now the shoulders are going to slow down. So the energy is going transferred through the shoulders, and now it's time to go down to the arms. So at this point, the arms are going to be moving fairly quickly. And then, same as the whip, the arms are going to slow down. And now you're ready to deliver this energy into the club. You see that he has great lag here, so he's maintained a lot of energy in this club, and now he's ready to let it go and to let that energy travel through his body down into the club. So that's what sequencing is all about. It's just like a circle here. Starts from the ground, works up through the hips, stretches the muscles of the torso. Let's go through this whole thing again so you get a real clear idea of exactly what's going on. I know my artwork is wonderful, so it should be help to illustrate the point there. All right, so the hips are going first. They're stretching these muscles. They're starting the momentum going. Then the left heel's driving into the ground, slowing the hips down. These muscles that were stretched are now starting to fire to rotate the torso. Things are speeding up here just a little bit. Not at the club yet, but just with the upper body and the torso. Now the torso and the upper body is kind of throwing on the brakes, and that energy is being transferred down to the arms. At this point, the right arm would be feeling like it's throwing, just like it would be in the throw the ball drill that we have on the website. And you're having this lag, meaning that the club has not released all its energy yet. You've got this big angle here between the hands and the arms and the club that's about to be released into the ball. So the arm's throwing, now everything's letting go, the hands are loose, they're slowing down, and all the energy is transferred out into the club, and then you have this nice wide release, and the reason for that is he's not powering through with his body. You can see his body's pretty passive here and letting this club whip through the ball, just like with the whip when it cracked. So the correct sequencing is the correct sequencing, I'm going to get it backwards for you. The correct sequencing is hips, shoulders, arms, and then club. If you can do that, you can make it fluid. You can get a ton of distance very, very easily. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show a free preview to a premium video called the How the Lower Body Works video. If you'd like to see the full video, I'm going to attach a link in the bottom right. You can click on this link. It's going to take you straight to the video. You'll be able to watch it for free.
So we're here with Clay Ballard, our new RST certified instructor who's taking over down here in Orlando for us and doing a great job and learning all the biomechanics of the swing. And he's also going to help us today talk about the lower body movement. And I know for a lot of you golfers, we talk about hip spinners and those types of things that typically are geared more towards the better golfer. But that's obviously not everybody out there. We know we have a lot of golfers who still come over the top and don't really have a good picture of how the lower body works. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And we built a little 2D model here, and it's built kind of like Clay. Maybe we'll call him Clay. Stick figure move here. But basically it's an oversimplified 2D model from a top-down perspective. Like I said, it's oversimplified, but it's going to show the segments of the body in proportion how they work, and they're color-coded for a reason. So the one piece that I have here at the bottom is green, and this is the starting piece, and it's the smallest piece. The green piece represents the hips, and it's green for a reason. We're going to talk about that in a second. The next piece, proportionately bigger than the green piece, is red, and it's red for a reason. That's the shoulders or the upper torso. And then the yellow piece represents the left arm, and the blue piece represents the golf club. Now they're color-coded for a reason, and Clay, you know, we see a lot of golfers moving these segments in the wrong sequence, and we spend a lot of time talking about sequencing in the golf swing, and this is where people come over the top and they don't sequence things correctly. They're color-coded like this for a reason. What do we typically see the first part moving in the higher handicap golfers?
With the higher handicap golfers, they tend to go ahead and unwind their shoulders right off the bat. They throw their arms from the top, and then that gets the club releasing way too early. So they're kind of throwing the club from the top, coming over the top, hitting a big slice, getting too steep on it. A lot of different problems that are caused with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Now it's time to take action. Don't let another year pass and still be frustrated with your golf game. This is your year to beat all of your friends. Go to the description below and click the link to sign up for your free membership. It will never cost you a dime, and you'll receive over 2.5 hours of detailed, eye-opening video lessons. Plus, you will be able to see the remainder of this video, only available if you click the link on this particular video. Be the first of your friends to join our 40,000 plus free members. We look forward to having you on our team.